Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Punting Pioneer. Today, as we continue to explore this new format, I decided we'd go tribal. I'm a big fan of tribal decks in general, and one of the cooler, more powerful lands that we got in the format is Mutavault. Mutavault barely made the cut, coming out in M14. Obviously a very strong tribal enabler, so seems like a reasonable archetype to try out. Some variation of tribal, just because, I mean, it's one of the stronger utility lands in the format, so might as well put it to good use. Plus, I love tribal decks anyway. And so I decided to go with zombies. Zombies were never quite powerful enough in Modern to get there, but they might have some legs in Pioneer. We shall see. We're in black, so we have access to arguably one of the more powerful cards in the format, which is Thoughtseize. You also have access to very efficient removal and Fatal Push. Doesn't kill everything, but it is very efficient for 1 mana. Now that, Path to Exile is not in this format, Lightning Bolt is not in this format, so removal is kind of at a premium. Black does efficient removal very well. So I decided to go zombies, decided to go black. Let's talk about the deck a little bit. We already mentioned Thoughtseize. Not zombie related, but just great interaction. Picks out the best card from their hand. I mentioned Fatal Push. Again, not zombie related, but super efficient interaction. So these are the support cards that will hopefully hold this deck together. As for the zombies themselves, we will start with the 1-drops. We got Crypt Breaker. It's just a 1/1 for 1, but it has some very cool abilities. They're maybe a little slow, but they could be very useful. So we can pay 2 and tap it, discard a card to create zombie tokens. So this thing can just spit out tokens every turn, which is potentially pretty powerful. We have to discard to do it, but we have a few cards that don't mind being in the graveyard, one of which is the Dread Wanderer. So this guy, if he's in your graveyard, you can pay 3 to return him to the battlefield. Can only do it at sorcery speed and only if you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, but still, he doesn't mind. He can just kind of keep coming back. Not quite as powerful as Gravecrawler, but unfortunately we don't have Gravecrawler in this format, so Dread Wanderer is the next best runner-up. And 2 power is nice as well, a little more aggressive. The most aggressive zombie we have, though, is Diregraph Ghoul. It's a 2/2 for 1, which is pretty good stats. It enters tapped, so as zombies tend to do. So not a great blocker, but it is one of the more aggressive 1-drops. So that's the 1-drop slot. The 2-drop slot, we have Lazotep Reaver. It's a 1/2 for 2. But when it enters the battlefield, you amass 1. So either we're growing a zombie army token we already have, or if this is coming onto an empty battlefield, it's basically 2 zombies in 1, which makes it pretty good value. 2 zombie creatures for 2 mana for 1 card is pretty good. So I think he is worth the inclusion here. The more powerful 2-drop is Relentless Dead. This guy's pretty cool. It's a 2/2 for 2, which is fine. It has Menace, so it's very hard to block. And he just keeps coming back. If you hold up a single black mana with this guy when he dies, you can just return it back to your hand. Also, if you have extra mana to hold up, you can pay additional and bring other things back from the graveyard. So again, having a bunch of 1-drops in the deck, having them in the graveyard, like getting them pitched to Crypt Breaker, we can bring them back with Relentless Dead. So we're getting some value there. The 3-drop slot tends to be very crowded in zombies. You have a lot of options, and so there are definitely changes you could make here. You could kind of tweak it to fit your play style a little more. I opted for 4 copies of Death Baron. It's a Lord, and it gives them Death Touch. So and both abilities are static, so you're not investing. It happens automatically. You're not investing any more mana. You're not tapping. It's just all zombies are now +1/+1 and have Death Touch. So that it seems like just the best Lord, as it doesn't require any additional investment. Runner-up is Lord of the Accursed, which gives +1/+1, and has the ability to give them all menace, but requires a mana sink as well as tapping the Lord. So it's a little slower to get the value out of it. I feel like giving Death Touch is similar to giving Menace. You don't really want to block them as much. So if you went for more of an aggressive build of zombies, I guess Lord of the Accursed might be your go-to. But I decided to just go 2. And I did another 2 of the Diregraph Colossus, who is not a Lord. But he enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each zombie card in my graveyard, and whenever you cast a zombie spell, you're creating a token. So again, this guy's generating value without additional investment. You're going to want to continue playing zombies anyway, so you're just pumping out a bunch of tokens as you do so. So seems like a pretty good value card. But again, the 3-drop slot is pretty crowded, so only a couple of them. And then the other 2 of is Murderous Rider, and this card is pretty amazing. This maybe should be a 4 of. So I might, we'll see how this league goes. I might play around with it, but this is such a good card. It might have to be a 4 of. It's a new one from Throne of Eldraine. Swift End is the adventure part of it, so it's almost a strict upgrade to like Hero's Downfall. It's a 3 mana, 2 black, colorless, instant, destroy target creature or planeswalker. The only downside is you lose 2 life. So between this card and Thoughtseize, we are kind of hurting ourselves a little bit, but we have a monocolored mana base, so we're not losing any life there. So I think it's fine. Plus, when you cast him as a creature, he has lifelink, so it kind of helps to regain that life that you're losing. But again, it's 2 cards in 1. So you have a removal spell, and then you can cast it as a 2/3 life-linking zombie. Pretty solid, especially in this deck. So that's it for the main deck. I mean, the mana base, lots of basic swamps. We get the Mutavault, like I talked about. It's a great tribal card. However, it only taps for colorless, and we do have a lot of double black mana costs. So I threw in some Urborgs to help cover our ass there. Turns Mutavault into a swamp as well. So with an Urborg on the battlefield, our Mutavaults can tap for black, which is helpful with some of these mana costs. And then a couple Field of Ruin. Again, we're just a single color, so we have some room for utility lands. And Field of Ruin helps to trigger the Revolt on Fatal Push. If you activate Field of Ruin, your permanent has left the battlefield, so we can now hit bigger converted mana cost creatures with our Fatal Push. So that's why the field's in there. So that's the main deck. Sideboard, again, this is a new format. It's hard to tune sideboards. You're just kind of guessing what the meta is like at this point. Duress comes in against like combo decks or control decks maybe. You can pick the important pieces out of their hand, so this will supplement Thoughtseize. Phyrexian Revoker, great against various planeswalkers, all kinds of stuff. There's lots of scary activated abilities out there. It even shuts down, as opposed to like Pithing Needle, it shuts down mana abilities, so it can shut down mana dorks, etc. So, and he's a body to attack with. He's not a zombie body, but he's still a body. Cast down some more removal if we're up against a creature-heavy deck, and the Fatal Pushes and the Murderous Riders aren't quite cutting it. We can bring in a couple more of these. Pretty good removal spell. Destroy target non-legendary. Not bad, not bad. Gifted Aetherborn comes in against the aggressive decks. It is not a zombie, but it's a 2/3 lifelinker, which is the important part. So it's got a bigger butt, so it can block a little bit better, especially with Death Touch, and the lifelink is super useful in the aggressive matchups. This will help stabilize our life total a little bit. Kalidas serves a similar role. He has lifelink. So against the aggressive creature-based decks, Kalidas seems like pretty great value. Again, not a zombie, but he seems worth it, at least as a one-of. And then 4 Leyline of the Voids. Against graveyard-based decks, this will come in. I'm following the train of thought that if you're going to play with ley lines, might as well play with 4 so that you maximize your chance of seeing one in your opening hand. So we got 4 ley lines taking up some room in the sideboard. But yeah, that's the deck. Let's see how it does. I'm excited to play some more Pioneer. Hope you guys are too. I'll see you in the first match.